I challenge you to a duel.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 54 of the Movie Duel podcast. My name is Peter and I am your host. On each episode of the Movie Duel podcast we select a subject based around movies and then my guests each pick a film that they think best fits that subject. The only rule being that you can't pick a film that has already appeared on the podcast. However, for this episode, we've done something a teeny bit different, and Vanessa joined me for this episode, along with her brother, returning as a guest. And for the first time ever, we have got Gail Whyte, who is Vanessa and Adam's mother, who's been often mentioned on the podcast, especially when Vanessa's on. And I set us the task of determining which is the best of the Chrisopher Nolan Batman films. So which is the best of Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, and we get into deep discussion on each of those films. But before we get into that chat, just a reminder, you can find all of our social media links and contact details in the show notes for this episode, depending on whether or not Vanessa and Adam's brand new podcast, which is mentioned during this episode, is live as well. We'll be adding the links to that in the show notes also. And reminder that you can find us over at Patreon as well with extra content for as little as $1 a month, where you can find monthly bonus content from all of us here at the Movie Duel podcast. And finally, just a word of warning, there is some strong language and spoilers for all the films that we talk about. Without further ado, this is episode 54 of the Movie Duel podcast.
I'm Batman. Nice coat. Thanks.
First of all, welcome back to Vanessa.
Hello.
Hello, Vanessa. How are you?
I'm all right. It's a Monday, but apart from that, it's all good.
And well, I mean, it's been a while since we've had a dual episode with you. It's been quite
Did I not do Crocodile Dundee 2? And
oh god, yeah, but that feels like ages ago. Yeah,
it was ages ago. And what was it? 2010.
2010.
When
Yeah.
Nicole, what was that?
God.
It was something about sequels.
Underrated.
Aye, but when I said when?
Oh,
was
when?
it? When was it?
Oh, that was some
Mm.
holidays as well, I think.
Oh God.
We
Aye,
recorded
so
that.
it was a while ago. So yeah.
Mm.
No, but actually, because me and you obviously have been doing X-Files and obviously the round tables every month, even though it's been a while, like it doesn't feel like it, if that makes sense. And obviously because as well, just because time is like mental fast, but it just doesn't feel like it's been that long. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. And you will have heard a couple of other voices just there. We've got a returning guest, Mr. Adam Whyte, Vanessa's brother. Hello, Adam.
Hello, yes, it's a pleasure to be back.
Good. And a brand new voice to the podcast. Although we've heard mention of her on many occasions, it is the lovely, the delightful, and the gorgeous Gail.
Hi, it's lovely to be here.
For those of you that don't know, Gail is Vanessa and Adam's mother. So we've got you to blame for these two.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting to see who drops the C-bomb first, if at all. Although my money's on Gail.
Yeah, probably.
But yes, welcome, Gail. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here on the Movie Duel podcast. Vanessa obviously talks about you endlessly during the podcast, and we've heard many a tale of your cinema trips with Vanessa, and obviously your cosplaying as well. We've heard about that.
Mum doesn't know what cosplay means.
All right, okay. Well, Vanessa very kindly shared with me your was it anniversary video?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Doing
Yeah, Pulp Fiction.
Pulp
Oh,
Fiction,
the Pulp Fiction one. That was a wee while ago now.
which is
Yeah,
incredible. I must
it was
admit,
Mrs. Mia Wallace.
oh,
That's right. That was such good fun.
It was
it
good
was
fun.
your
Mm.
mimicry of Uma Thurman was impeccable. It was brilliant. It was really good.
Mm.
But I don't think. Sorry, I forget your husband's name.
Dick. Mm.
Dick. Yeah, I don't think he quite pulled off.
I have to
John
say he did
Travolta.
better than I was expecting.
Yeah. To be
He
fair.
actually he made up an effort what he lacked in grace.
Yes.
Yes, and just for context, we're going to call Dick loose-lipped Dick from now on. The original plan for this podcast was just to have Adam and Vanessa on, and I was going to bring Gail on as a surprise adjudicator without Vanessa knowing, and we planned this for months and months and months until Dick let it slip yesterday. But there we go. Can't have it all.
It was very funny, to be fair. It did make me laugh a lot. I did find it very amusing.
I know, but I just wanted to see your reaction.
Yeah, that's fair, actually. Yeah, it would have been a good reaction.
You
Might have
needed
had some
that
swearing
break.
early. You might have had some swearing early on then.
Yes, so I invited you all really to for quite a bit of an insurmountable task, I suppose. Really, is to delve into a trilogy. It's the second time that we've done 3 films on one podcast, but we are going to determine this evening what we think is the best Christopher Nolan Batman film. So, which film of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy is the best one? So, a question for you all first off, and we'll start with Adam on this. I mean, generally, Batman as an IP, is it something that you're a fan of?
Yes. Without, I don't want to get too tediously autobiographical here, but as a child, I was a huge Batman fan. I watched the Adam West Batman. I watched the Tim Burton Batman. I watched the Joel Schumacher Batmans. I watched Batman the animated series. I think a turning point for me in my Batman journey was as a very young child. My dad bought me a copy of one of the graphic novels, which was A Death in the Family, which is not remotely suitable for us
No.
8-year-olds or however old I was when I read it. I picked it up again recently, and the first sentence in it is something like, "It took us weeks to track down the kiddie porn ring." I mean, which I wouldn't have had a clue what that meant, thankfully, when I read it. But it was the first really, really adult Batman story I read. And it was the first scary one. The Joker is terrifying.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, A Death in the Family basically tells the story of somewhat of a spoiler, but of how the Joker kills one of the Robins, and he does so with a crowbar. It's really
Was he not
really,
sexually
really...
assault somebody at some point as well? Barbara Gordon or something?
That's The Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
It's a
I read
suggestion
that.
of it, yeah.
But I read that, and it really disturbed me, but also made me fascinated. And then in the years after the Schumacher Batmans and the notorious Batman and Robin, when I was a real film geek looking up, movies on the internet every day, I was constantly reading about the different, Batman was in development hell for years, and a lot of directors were attached. Darren Aronofsky, Wolfgang Petersen, and eventually Christopher Nolan, who by that point I already liked independently of this. I got attached and I got incredibly excited about the prospect. And then I remember reading the cast of Batman Begins at one point, and just like it was like a fantasy cast. It was like, surely not. It was almost hilarious. Like it was like, if you were, what would your fantasy cast for Batman be? I don't know, Gary Oldman, Liam Neeson, Morgan Freeman, Christian Bale. It's insanely stacked. So I was incredibly excited about Batman Begins when it came out, and not to spoil things, but it lived up to my expectations.
Excellent. Well, I mean, just to cut back a little bit there to Death in the Family, which is a great graphic novel, and the best thing about that is that people actually voted for him to kill.
There was a vote, and
there
it
was
was
a
narrow.
vote. Yeah,
whether Robin should, and he was the third and a somewhat controversial Robin, a lot of people didn't like him very much. So
Yeah.
they left it on a cliffhanger, and then in the pre-internet days, people could phone up and decide whether the Joker was going to kill him or not, and they decided to kill him.
Is it Jason Todd? It's Jason Todd, isn't it,
Jason
that one?
Todd, yeah. Although he
Okay.
did kind of come back, but in the way that these things happen in comic books.
Oh,
But
of course.
so, as a young child, I had nightmares after reading it.
Oh, dear. Something else we have to thank Dick for.
Yes, for messing up my childhood.
What about you, Vanessa? Because obviously we're a similar age, so I think we probably had the same sort of trajectory with
Not
Batman.
not as in depth as Adam. I mean, I only read a couple of the graphic novels like as an adult. I read The Killing Joke and The Long Halloween, I think.
Yeah, I think I gave you the Long
Halloween. Yeah, and I loved them both. But when I was a kid, I suppose it would have been the Adam West stuff. The really dark cartoon, was it a Warner Brothers cartoon that used to be on a Saturday morning?
Yeah, Alive and Kicking.
Yeah. So I used to watch that. TV cartoons on a Saturday morning were banging. You had like the Raccoons, you had Batman. It was such a good lineup. And then Albert the Fifth Musketeer. Sorry, I'll go off on a tangent.
D'Artagnan.
And then obviously watched like the 1989 Batman and Batman Returns. Love them both for very different reasons. And then I think after that, the quality of them after, was it Batman Forever, the Val Kilmer one?
That's the Val Kilmer one, yeah.
Yeah, and was that Joel Schumacher?
Yes.
Yeah, well, they both Joel Schumacher, that one, right? I actually don't mind Batman Forever. I think it's quite good fun. I don't know, it's been a while since I've watched it. Maybe my view would change on it if I watched it again, whereas I did recently watch Batman and Batman Returns, and I still really enjoyed them. Batman and Robin was farcical, but it was quite funny because it was so farcical. But a bit like, I didn't follow movies as much as Adam did in the early 2000s, but I was still quite excited about these movies. It sounded like somebody was finally going to do a really dark Batman, which I think is what it deserves, because even though Batman and Batman Returns were quite dark, they're not as dark as the Nolan one. So I think, Adam was super excited and I wasn't as excited, but I still remember going to see Batman Begins and being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm about to see what I think is going to be a great Batman, and it was a great Batman. So yeah.
And Gail, I suppose, obviously, you're of a generation where the only sort of live action or Batman that you would have seen would have been the Adam West and those. Was that something you were a fan of?
I wasn't all that aware of it. I think I used to watch it occasionally, but I wasn't really into it. But I've seen a lot of the films, and it wasn't because I thought, oh, it's a Batman film, I'll need to go. We just tended to go because we went to a lot of films. So we did see quite a few. But they were just, I never thought they were very exciting or anything until the Nolan ones came.
Right,
and then it was something quite different. And we watched the three of them every year. It's a winter treat.
Oh, excellent. Well, you're a perfect guest then for this episode. So we're gonna cover all three Christopher Nolan Batman films tonight. And before we get into those individually, we're just going to sort of cover off some of the consistencies across the series. And I suppose first and foremost, we probably need to talk about Batman, talk about Christian Bale as our titular character. Vanessa, we'll start with you. How do you think he sort of stands? How do you think he sort of ranks as Batman Bruce Wayne?
I think he's my favourite. Christian Bale's quite an intense guy, isn't he? When did American Psycho come out? It was before
2000.
Yeah. I thought that. Yeah. So I had seen him. The thing I most remember him from before these movies was American Psycho, and I was really impressed by that performance. But obviously, it is a very niche thing, and like I said, he does seem like quite an intense person. But I think he's the best Batman. I think he nails the kind of quite sad character that Batman actually is. Like the fact that he can't have like normal relationships and he's a bit moody, and yet he manages to do the playboy stuff, but it's all an act. when he's doing the Bruce Wayne, because you know that Batman's really his true persona, and the Bruce Wayne stuff's more like like he's kidding on when he's doing that. But I feel that with somebody like Michael Keaton, he is playing the Bruce Wayne stuff as at the same kind of level as if he is Bruce Wayne and he's back. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
I just
think
feel
so,
that, I feel Christian Bale, when you look at him as Batman, you're like, this is who this guy is. And then when he's doing the millionaire playboy lifestyle with the women and the drinks and all the rest of it, that's an act. Whereas with Michael Keaton, I feel like it's kind of 50-50. So I think in my mind, Christian Bale's the best Batman because he just gets that really moody thing going. And he's quite hot. Can't deny that he's quite a good-looking guy. Although apparently he's a bit of a dick, so I've read. But, you never know whether these things are right or not. But
I think he's very serious about his.
Maybe that's it. Maybe he's just a really
doesn't
serious
suffer
guy.
fools, I think, is probably the best way to put it.
Cinematographers who's
Yeah,
stepping his light or whatever that was.
Yeah, exactly. So, Gail, what about you? What's your opinion on Christian Bale as Batman?
I quite like him in the role. I think he's, as Vanessa says, I think he captures the sort of darkness, and so he gets away with the Bruce Wayne stuff. But I think he really inhabits the role once he's got the mask on. Yeah.
I think for me, the only thing that I find that he struggles with is some of the little comedic moments. I think they don't quite land. I don't think you could argue maybe it doesn't need it, but and let the other characters, let your Alfreds and let your Lucius Foxes do those little comedic moments, because then it kind of reminds you of the I'll get drive through and stuff like that from Batman Forever and things like that. But
chicks dig the car.
Chicks dig the car. It's the car. Chicks dig the car. Yeah. But Adam, I'm going to come to you about the Batman voice because I find it a bit of a distraction.
It is a little bit. It was something that people have commented on, I think, when Batman Begins came out. And there's some, I think, post-production tinkering with it. It's not the best Batman voice because that would be Kevin Conroy, who's the best Batman.
Yeah, okay.
But Chris, it is a bit of an issue, but then it's also somewhat logical. I mean, everything in these films, they're not realistic, but there's Nolan introduced a kind of logic behind everything, and logically he would change his voice when he's Batman. So it doesn't ruin it for me once in a while. But then this kind of ties into Christopher Nolan's sound issues, which come up sometimes. I mean, I was watching Batman Begins. The last time I watched it, I think I put on subtitles at one bit because I realised that having seen it, I saw Batman Begins 8 times in the cinema when it came out. Just to,
Did you?
Yeah, that's just to illustrate how obsessive I was. And I realised there was a line of dialogue that I still, having seen it so many times, I still couldn't make out one of the lines of dialogue. And it's the line when Christian Bale gets kicked out of the club that Tom Wilkinson's in, and the homeless guy says something. And I thought, what the hell is that line? I put it back and put the subtitles on, and he says, should have tipped better. And I thought, I've seen this movie 20 times at least, and I've never caught that line. So, yeah, you could say Chris Nolan has an interesting relationship with sound recording.
But I sort of picked up on it this time round that it's not so bad in Batman Begins. It's when we get to The Dark Knight, and I
think it is worse than The Dark Knight. I think that's true.
Oh, where are you, pants?
That's the one I always try and do. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think he's a stand-up. I mean, for me, it's always Michael Keaton. It's always going to be Michael Keaton. And
is that partly nostalgic, do you think?
I think so. And I think, he probably doesn't get a great deal to do, or not compared to Christian Bale. He's got a hell of a lot to do across these 3 films, and even in the films, in their individuality, within each story, he's got a lot of range to be able to play with. Whereas, specifically in the first Tim Burton Batman Keaton's not got a lot to do as Bruce Wayne, whereas I think here we spend a lot of time with Bruce Wayne as Bruce Wayne, and the story is very sort of strongly guided by what's happening to Bruce Wayne rather than anything else, you know. Whereas I think that, you know, Tim Burton's original Batman is very much guided by the Joker, and Batman Returns is very much about Oswald Cobblepot's story. But here, you know, the story is, in all three films, is Bruce Wayne's journey. I mean, the rest of the, you know, the sort of rest of the familiar cast. We've got Michael Caine as Alfred Pennyworth. He, you know, I mean, again, watching this in the first one, he seems a little bit more posh Cockney in the first one, and then full on Cockney from then on. But I didn't necessarily see this casting as a great casting, because I couldn't sort of, you know, you'd seen sort of Alan Napier and Michael Gough as these very sort of old, almost doddery kind of butler types, and you know, Michael Caine isn't that. He's, you know, even though he was in his, I think, 70s at this point of his life, he's not old and doddery. He's Michael Caine, and he's got something about him. But do you think, Adam, do you think he's up there with the Alfreds, the greats?
Yeah, I think he is, and I know what you mean though. When I read that casting, I was slightly unsure, and Michael Gough is one of the few actors who's in all four of the other but the previous run of Batman films. So he was, you know, had really established himself as Alfred for a sort of entire generation. So it was difficult, but Michael Caine just took it in a different direction and kind of made it his own. So yeah, I think it works. I think most of the casting's pretty great. Gary Oldman in particular, I think, is just tremendous in these movies.
Yeah.
And again, Gary Oldman isn't obvious casting for Gordon at all.
No.
I think he was first approached to play the Liam Neeson role, but he was bored of playing villains, so it was actually against type for him to play it.
Yeah, I don't think he'd not sort of got to that stage of his career, had he, where he'd been doing super serious roles, I suppose, or, you know, or dialed down roles, because it's compared to a lot of his work before this, it's quite a straight performance.
Yeah,
he's not, you know, he's not playing a wacky character. He's not putting on an incredible accent, or
he's kind of the heart of the trilogy to me, actually.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and then Lucius Fox, played by Morgan Freeman, again, you know, another Hollywood heavyweight, really, you know, another familiar sort of character. And Lucius Fox isn't necessarily one that a whole heap of people are going to be familiar with. He's an integral part of the Batman mythology, but he's not, you know, he's not necessarily appeared in a lot of the big hitting variations of Batman. And I think that's pretty much it for sort of the big main cast through the three films. I suppose the other sort of familiarity across the trilogy is Hans Zimmer's score. You know, Vanessa, what do you think of the score?
I think the score is phenomenal. I think the score completely makes all three movies. I don't know what else I can say about it. I just think it's absolutely amazing. I think it's very, very recognisable. So there's like a consistent, so the actual kind of like Dark Knight Batman music's consistent throughout the three, but then there's differences between the three as well. So you've got the Joker's kind of music, you've got Bane's music, you've got music when they're out in that mad pit, whatever the hell that's supposed to be. Like, it's different enough between the three that you're not like, I'm sitting listening to the same score again, but it's got these bits that you recognise. I mean, I love Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer's probably up there with John Williams as one of my favourite composers for like film music. So we were actually me and my mum are thinking about going to see him in November because he's coming to Glasgow. It's quite pricey though, and it's not in the best venue, so I don't know whether we will or not. But I've heard he is really, really good live as well. But yeah, I think the score is a massive part of what makes these movies so good. And as Hans Zimmer, he's worked with Chris Nolan a few times because he did Inception as well, didn't he? And yeah.
He did, yeah.
Lots of loud, booming scores that don't really
Yes,
have
Bombastic.
no melodies, but yeah.
Lots of percussion and deep brass.
Yeah.
I like it though because it's in your face.
And considering we're coming off, sorry to talk about the Tim Burton ones again, but I think it does just about top Danny Elfman's score from those films, which is
it was one of the things I remember when Batman Begins came out. And people were discussing it online that do a new Batman, but why have they got someone else to do the music? People wanted the Danny Elfman score to be used again. And I can understand why, although it wouldn't have really worked and it needed a new direction. But that Danny Elfman score is one of the great things about the last run of films. So, but they were right to go in a completely different direction with it.
Yeah.
Well, it adds to the epic sort of scale of the trilogy, doesn't it? You know, I don't think you can describe either of Burton's films as being epic. They're very grandiose and they're very good looking and, you know, full of action. But I don't think a Danny Elfman score would give the scale that you need for these three films. Because where, you know, Gotham as a whole is a much bigger space than we've previously seen. Even, you know, when they're using real life sort of towns in, you know, Adam West Batman, this is just something else, absolutely something else. Well, let's get into the films. We'll start at the beginning, obviously, with Batman Begins from 2005.
You've traveled the world. Now you must journey inwards. What you really fear is inside you. There is no turning back. Your parents' death was not your fault. The training is nothing. The will is everything. If you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, you become something else entirely. Are you ready to begin? Where are you?
So, needless to say, they're directed by Chris Nolan. So, Christopher Nolan directing. Screenplay by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer. And this one stars Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Katie Holmes, Gary Oldman, Cillian Murphy, Tom Wilkinson, Rutger Hauer, Ken Watanabe, and Morgan Freeman. So, this tells the story of the origins of Batman from the death of Bruce Wayne's parents and his journey to stop Ra's al Ghul and the Scarecrow from plunging Gotham City into chaos. So, overall opinions, or just sort of your brief sort of opinions of Batman Begins, and we'll start with you, Adam.
Well, as I already said, I saw it 8 times in the cinema, so I was quite fond of this movie. I loved just everything about it. I don't, maybe not Kate Holmes, but apart from that.
Oh, right, we're going to disagree. We're going to disagree.
Okay. Christopher Nolan and female characters, that's a bit of an issue. I don't think there's a great female character in this series until Anne Hathaway. I think.
Fair.
But anyway, we can come to that. But the film itself, I remember, it's one of my favorite sort of cinema going experiences. I remember I was like vibrating. I was so excited after the film. I couldn't stop talking about it.
They can kick you out for that, you know.
part of the reason I saw it so many times is because I took everyone I knew to see it.
I saw it with you.
I saw it with you. I saw it with Mum. I saw it with like everybody I knew. If they hadn't seen it, no, we'll go and see it. I'll buy your ticket. Fine. So I went to see it over it. I dragged everyone to go and see it. I love it. I love it's kind of a 3-act structure, and I love how long it is until we see Batman. I love the fact that it's like the better part of an hour that it establishes Bruce Wayne, that it takes its time to get to that point, so that when Batman does begin, it really packs a punch in the way that it didn't in the old series. I love the cast. I love the supporting characters, and the action's pretty great as well. The whole last act is great. I love the Gotham City. You used Chicago, obviously. I like the monorail things that you put in. There's a little bit more of the things like that, the monorail and that device that makes the water, that microwaves the water. There's still a little bit of sort of whimsical comic book stuff in Batman Begins that kind of drops off more in the sequels. The sequels take themselves a little bit more seriously than Begins, but I quite like that. I thought it was a close to perfect blockbuster.
Okay. What about you, Gail?
Well, I did enjoy it. I felt that the first act was a wee bit too long. I was quite happy once he came back and started working on all the Batman stuff with Lucius Fox and getting the car and all that sort of sorted. But I thought the first part was quite long. I have to admit, I'm not a fan of sort of like Bruce Lee or Kung Fu or anything like that. So possibly that affected how I felt about all that, the stuff that he was doing in whatever it was supposed to be, Time 8 or something.
Well, I'm going to defend you here, Adam, because I do quite like that first part. I think it's clever the way that Nolan sort of frames that first part, and it is sort of disjointed. It's not just a case of we're going from point A to point B. We go from point A to point C to point B to point C.
Yeah, the way it keeps the structure
fresh.
and the way it jumps about in time is done really well. And one thing Nolan does brilliantly is structure in almost all of his films. And I think the first act makes the last act more powerful as well when the League of Shadows come back into it and Liam Neeson comes back in. I don't think that ending would work as well without the beginning. And it's beautifully made. I mean, these scenes that they filmed in Iceland and stuff with the big sheets of ice in the mountains, and it's epic filmmaking.
What about you then, Vanessa?
I pretty much agree with Mum. All that League of Shadows pish at the start just kind of does my head. I'll be a bit more blunt, right? No, I'm taking the piss slightly. I think you need it. I agree that you need it. Maybe it's just a wee bit like Mum. It's just not my bag. So maybe I just find it a bit boring because I'm not into that kind of kung fu type stuff like Mum mentions. I just find it drags a little bit, and I'm not really interested. That's not to say it's not beautiful.
But then I think if you don't have that whole start with the League of Shadows and their methods versus what he wants to aspire to, you don't have the whole of the trilogy, because the rest of the trilogy is based on how far he can be pushed and how far he can control his emotions and everything else. Without that, you don't have the rest of the trilogy.
Do you know what? That's maybe fair. I just don't enjoy it. A bit like Mum, I just don't enjoy it. If I had to fast forward a bit, that's a bit of fast forward. It's probably the reason that I have watched we'll get on to this, but I've watched the second 2 movies in this trilogy far more than I've seen the first one. Having said that, rewatching it the other day, Saturday I think it was, I watched them all back to back, which was actually it was a feat, but I wasn't feeling particularly well, so it was quite good just to sit and watch them. And actually watching them back to back, I would say I probably appreciated the first one more, because like you said, Peter, the training and stuff that he has, obviously right through till the end, that keeps coming back. So I'm it was too long, but maybe it's just not my thing. And like you've maybe both got a point. It's just not like my favourite part. I mean, I like the stuff when you see the flashback with his mum and dad getting murdered. I think that's really effective. I think it's really sad. I think it's sadder than it is in the 1989 Batman. That guy is so creepy. The guy that crops up in Barbarian that plays Chill.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a creepy looking guy.
Wasn't he the Night King in
yes.
Game of Thrones as well?
Yeah, he's got that. It's got a look though. I mean, you couldn't cast him as like the sweet love interest or whatever. Like he's got a look that like, and I just think so. I like that stuff, and I really like. But I suppose, yeah, like I'll concede you're probably right. If you didn't have all of that, then a lot of other stuff maybe.
Well, as Peter says, it sets up that kind of moral conundrum which is central to Batman, and it also means that Batman's incredible fighting ability makes some logical sense. I watched Dark Knight Rises last night, and I'm jumping right to the end of the trilogy here. But when Joseph Gordon-Levitt, apparently inherits the Batcave, I was thinking, yeah, but he's not trained with the League of Shadows. He's going to go out there and get killed straight away.
Yeah. There's a Joe Chill on every corner for Robin. Yeah. Well, I mean, let's get into the villain. Obviously, the villains are a huge part of any superhero's story, and I think some past films, you can argue, get a bit over sort of swollen with when they try and throw in more than one villain. But we have a couple here, and I suppose they use reasonably sort of sparingly. They don't necessarily, although they have sort of similar motives and they're working together, they don't really cross over, which I suppose is a bonus. But let's start with the big bad, which is Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul, depending on how you want to say it. I think it does change in this trilogy at certain points. But played by Liam Neeson. Let's go to Gail first on this one.
I quite liked Liam Neeson. I found him. He was always sort of cool. He never seems to get angry. But I think it makes him quite frightening.
Yeah, I mean, I find him a bit. I think Liam Neeson's very good at playing sort of Liam Neeson-y type roles.
Yeah.
I don't think he had to. I think you could have had somebody else doing this role just as well. I think, compared to the rest of the villains in this, the whole of this trilogy. But he's a solid hand, isn't he, Liam Neeson?
Yes, and it doesn't. He doesn't overshadow. This is very much Bruce Wayne Batman's film. So the villains, even though there are multiple films in this film, but none of them overshadow the movie the way that arguably Jack Nicholson overshadows Michael Keaton in the first,
or even arguably Heath Ledger does when we get on to talking about
and the sequels and Rises to an extent. I mean, we'll get there, but Rises is the least Batman-y of these three films.
I think Ra's al Ghul is quite effective though. Like, if forget maybe about the performance, because Peter's maybe got a point. Actually, somebody else could have played this, and I'm not sure it would have made a huge amount of difference. But I think the character's very good, because him and the League of Shadows, and obviously it comes back later on in the third one, they are doing what they think is right. They think Gotham is a cesspit, and to all intents and purposes, when you see this first movie, it is. Like, it's been run by gangsters. People are just getting shot in the street. That bit where Rachel takes them down and says, things are worse than ever. And, you really get the impression this place is hell. And I'm not saying it's right to, like, make them all basically kill one another with this magical stuff that goes in there, but there is a morality there that you don't get with the Joker and Bane. I mean, you maybe get with Bane a little bit, but there's more of a, like, they think that what they're doing is for like the Hot Fuzz, for the greater good. They think it's for the greater good. You know what I mean? It's that kind of idea that you get from them, and I think that's quite interesting. Whereas characters like this, I'm sure we'll get on the Scarecrow and stuff.
Well, yeah, take us into the Scarecrow. Yeah.
Well, I love the Scarecrow. I think the Scarecrow's proper old school fun Batman villain. Like, and is it Killian? Is that how you pronounce it?
Cillian Murphy.
Cillian Murphy, obviously, Chris Nolan loves him, right? He's worked with him a few times now. I think he's great. I think he's such a good actor, and I think he's perfect in this. He's not got a massive part in it, obviously, but and obviously crops up later on as almost like a cameo, but in the other movies. But I think he's slightly over the top, melodramatic, but like fun, just like out of a. You know, you were talking about this earlier, Peter, about there's not a lot of comedy and stuff in these films, but he gives you the comedic stuff in this movie, and I really like him for it.
It's so sinister. It's just, but playfully sinister.
But playfully, yeah, it's really
he knows he can get away with it because he's got all his shit up his sleeve, kind of thing. You know, I mean, the Scarecrow is such an interesting villain because he's not. You know, he doesn't have the physical prowess of a lot of Batman villains, or the you know the armies, or you know the goons or anything like that. You know, he's not necessarily that kind of character. He is all about using his chemicals and using his fear toxin and stuff.
His intellect to a certain extent, because he's meant to be like a doctor, isn't he? He's meant to be really bright.
But he's just got that perfect sort of psychopathic edge to him as well, I think. But Cillian Murphy, I think, you know, that probably comes quite easy to him. He seems that kind of person. What are your sort of opinions on the villains, Adam?
I love Cillian Murphy in this film, and it made sense for the Scarecrow to be a villain in this because it's kind of thematically tied into the theme of fear. Which is quite central to Begins and kind of comes up again in The Dark Knight Rises. And for a long time, I remember after Batman and Robin came out, when there was theoretically going to be a fifth one of those movies that didn't happen, the Scarecrow was going to be the next villain they used.
Yeah.
So it was always going to be interesting to see what they did with this.
That was Batman Triumphant.
Batman Triumphant. I remember once, I might be making this up, I remember once upon a time reading that John Travolta was being considered for the role of the Scarecrow.
Really?
Yeah, among other names. That might be a false memory, but I remember reading that somewhere.
I remember reading it was going to be Clint Eastwood as Bruce Wayne, and the Scarecrow was going to get him with the fear toxin, and he was going to see the Jack Nicholson Joker or something like that.
Yeah, that rings a bell. Yeah, I've probably read that in Empire circa.
Which would have been very, very, very cool, but there we go. We never got that, unfortunately. And then I'd just like to shout out one of the sort of lower tier villains, Tom Wilkinson.
He's so good.
He's fucking brilliant. He is so vile and so horrible. And his accent is just incredible.
His accent's so good. See if you didn't know he was British. And, you know, rest him, because obviously he died a couple of years ago now, didn't he?
Yeah.
But, like, I watched the film Monty recently, and he's such, like, he's a bit of an arse in it, but he's such a nice character. And then seeing that and then seeing this, you're like, God, that guy could really, really act.
He can really do it. He's done it in a couple of... he had a small role in The Ghost in the Darkness as this sort of patron who was a proper shit. And he only has a couple of scenes, but he steals every single one he's in. And he kind of does here, I think, as well. And it's just perfect, and it's perfect sort of foil. And Falcone's obviously quite an important character, again, to that sort of mid sort of Batman. I think it was year one was the first appearance of Falcone. I think I could be completely wrong on that. There might be.
Yeah, it was interesting that they lean into with these early ones the gangster characters, and Eric Roberts and the Dark Knight, and I think The Long Halloween is one of the big influences on this trilogy, and this idea that because that Batman has inspired all these freak villains that they're used to dealing with your Carmine Falcone's.
Maroni.
And this idea of escalation that it's only after Batman comes along that we start getting these really over the top crazy villains that are a lot less predictable and difficult to control.
And I think as Vanessa was sort of saying, it's about showing the sort of depths that Gotham's sort of gone to, and it's perfectly sort of encapsulated with his with his appearance and this world that's almost been created by his sort of crime group, and that you do feel that Bruce Wayne is completely powerless in that moment. He's effectively still the richest person in Gotham, but he can't do anything, and Falcone knows that, and he relishes in that. And Tom Wilkinson perfectly portrays that relish as well. You're like your father, he begged like a dog. Love that scene. But yeah. And then I suppose let's just sort of round up the cast here. Katie Holmes, then, Adam. Do you want to tell us your opinion?
She has a moment actually when they're just outside that club before he goes in to confront Tom Wilkinson, where Christian Bale says, "I'm not one of your good people," and she says, "What do you mean?" And it's one of the most annoying line readings ever. And it's just, "What do you mean?" And it just really grates me. I don't know. Maybe Christopher Nolan was desperate to work with Katie Holmes. I don't know. I would, but I've always somewhat wondered if that was one of the things that the studio slightly pushed on him. Maybe not. But that's always the impression I've got. I don't think he's quite as interested in the character. I don't hate Katie Holmes, and actually one of my favorite films is Wonder Boys, and she's pretty great in Wonder Boys. She's a small part, but her character is, I think, the weakest thing in the film, and her performance is the weakest performance. Again, she's up against like one of the most incredible casts ever, so I don't really blame her. And given everything she had to deal with Scientology, etc., one has to feel a degree of sympathy for her. But I think she's pretty much the weakest thing in the film.
Okay, Vanessa.
I disagree. I think she's better than Maggie Gyllenhaal.
I disagree with that, but I think Maggie Gyllenhaal still isn't perfect, and it's not her fault. Again, I don't think the character is brilliant. I think she's okay, but I don't think she's a brilliant.
Maybe Christopher Nolan's not as good in women roles.
No, he's not.
I don't think he is.
You're not the first person to pick up on it. It's an issue throughout his filmography. He has a few good female parts, and I think, I having watched Rises last night, I think Anne Hathaway's tremendous. And like, what's her name? Carrie-Anne Moss was good in Memento. There are good female roles in there, but they're the minority, and there are some clunkers. And I was thrilled when the Joker blew her up in the second one.
Elliot Page in Inception was pretty good, no? That's not Elliot.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm fucking up the name. It's not Page. Elliot.
Yeah, Elliot.
It's Page. Sorry, it's Page. Yeah. Sorry.
It's the first name you'd fuck up if it was anything.
Yeah. But I knew I'd got that right, but I suddenly thought I'd maybe fucked up the second name. But I just think she's more believable, and I think there's more chemistry between her and Christian Bale than there is. Is it Gyllenhaal or Gyllenhaal?
Gyllenhaal, isn't it? It's weird.
Oh, is that?
The actual pronouncing is nobody actually does it.
Right, okay, that's fine then. If I cock it up, it doesn't matter. I think there's more chemistry. I think she's more believable as this little girl that he was friends with. And I don't know, maybe she's more likable. When I was watching it the other day, I put a couple things on Instagram, and a guy that I'm friendly with who's really into movies messaged, and he said, hot take, I think Kate Holmes is better than Maggie. And I was like, it's not a hot take to me, because I agree. And Stevie sitting next to me, before I'd even said that, he said the same thing. He's like, I prefer her as Rachel.
Right, okay. Gail, do you want to weigh in on this one?
Well, I think because the part, I think, is pretty underwritten, I don't know if it matters too much to me. And I wasn't really terribly aware of a huge difference in the performances.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think I'm Team Gyllenhaal, I think.
Yeah, I think Gyllenhaal's an improvement, but she's still one of the weaker things about that.
So, I mean, we've got 3 films to sort of cover here, so maybe let's sort of go through. What do you think is the best sort of moment from Batman Begins, or the standout sort of moment, standout scene? What would you say, Adam?
I think There's a few. I think I love the bit when he I think it's the Rachel Dawes moment, but when he effectively tells her who he is, and she figures out it's Bruce Wayne, which is a kind of there's a mirror scene of that at the end of Rises when he effectively tells Gary Oldman who he is. I always got kind of goosebumps at that bit, partly because it goes into this. There's a great sort of action bit right after, and he swoops down, and the music rises, and it's really good. But I think my favorite scene in Begins is the first time we see Batman, because it's filmed like a horror movie.
Yes.
And it's filmed from the point of view of these goons, and we don't see a lot of them. It's just these flashes, and it's very dark, and and you've been because you've waited an hour to see Batman.
Yeah.
To introduce him that way is just superb. So I think that's probably my favorite scene in the movie.
Okay. And Gail?
I'm not so sure actually. What would be my favourite scene? I like where they introduce all the bits with Lucius Fox, the outfit
All the
and
gadgets
the
and
car
stuff.
and all the gadgets.
The
I
James
like that.
Bond stuff.
Yeah, I know when he says to do it in black. So I like that stuff.
Vanessa, same question.
A bit like Adam, I really like the bit where he repeats the line, it's not who I am underneath, it's the things I do. Is that right? That define me. I like that. But this is really bad because it's right at the end of the movie, but I was so fucking excited when he comes along and says, oh, here's oh no, wait a minute. So they're building they're going to rebuild the house starting with the east wing or whatever the hell it is, that's the Batcave. And then it flashes to on top of Gotham PD, and he's talking to Gary Old. No, he's not. Yes, he is talking to Gary Oldman. Sorry, and then when he says, "Oh, we've got this, guy doing robberies. He likes to leave a calling card," and he turns the card over, and it's the Joker. And I don't know if you remember this, Adam, but we were in Livingston Cinema watching this together, and I think I actually pooped at that point because I was so excited. So excited because I was like, "Oh my god, we're getting the Joker!" And I was just like, "Ah!" So I would say probably that scene right at the end, just because it proper made me like so excited for what we were going to get next.
Well, just to pick up on actually what Mum was saying about the gadgets, I was reminded. I went to a Q&A at the Edinburgh Festival one year with Darren Aronofsky. I think this was after Begins had come out, and for a while Aronofsky was going to adapt Year One, and he was asked about it, and he said they wanted to do this very stripped down, reboot of the series, where he's figuring it out to be Batman, and he'd said he'd gone to Warner Brothers and said, like, for instance, he's not going to have a Batmobile, he's just going to be driving in a normal car. And they said, what the fuck are you talking about? We can't sell toys of normal cars. We need to sell toys. And I think Christopher Nolan managed to appease that side of what Warner Brothers wanted in terms of a film that was going to be a 12A, that you could sell toys and still do his own thing and still make his own mark. And I think he struck that balance. I think the Aronofsky film could have been great, but Warner Brothers ultimately were never going to make it.
Well, I mean, we did effectively get that with the Batman.
We kind of did, eventually, yeah.
But yeah, I suppose. Yeah, they still sold toys at it as well, to be fair.
What's yours, Peter?
I think for me, it's a toss-up between that first sort of appearance of Batman in the dock, which is fantastic, or I think maybe just tips it is that start of the sort of rioting in Gotham and where everything is going to shit in Gotham is just it really, as I sort of mentioned earlier, it really adds scale, I think, to the story and to the world that Nolan's creating with this Batman series. And
which again has a horror movie. There's some real George Romero stuff there with the people wandering about off their heads on this hallucinogen, and it's like a zombie film.
Yeah.
And I mean, this film sort of gives us, well, all of these films really. I've got a bit of a list of sort of just people who pop up in this film.
You've got X-Files connections as well.
Indeed, yeah. There's oh yeah. You know what? I don't think I put any X-Files connections. What are the X-Files connections?
In any of these movies?
Yeah.
We'll get to it in the next film.
Okay. maybe I've just completely overseen that. Anyway, but you've got Boris the Bullet Dodger from Snatch, who plays the tramp. You've got Little Joffrey.
Yeah.
Yes.
From Game of Thrones. He plays the young boy on the sort of balcony. And most bizarrely, you've got Tim Booth from James, who's playing Victor
James,
Zsasz,
that's right, yeah.
He was the lead singer from James.
What's he play?
Victor Zsasz. He plays the one that gets sent down, the bald guy with the markings on his.
The first time you see Cillian Murphy, and he's
getting off sending into Arkham.
Yeah.
And I just remember watching this the first time because I was a big fan of James in the 90s, and I was like, "That's the fucking singer from James." And then bizarrely, sort of looking on IMDb, it's like it is the singer from James.
That's a weird one.
Who's never did anything else. But yeah, anything anyone else wants to add to Batman Begins before we move on?
I think I would just add, like I said before, I think for me watching it, like the three back to back almost, made me appreciate Batman Begins maybe a wee bit more than I had done.
Yeah. I think I didn't vibe with Batman Begins as much as I initially vibed with The Dark Knight, for sure. And it's my appreciation for it has grown a lot more as I've watched the trilogy as a whole, for sure.
The thing is, I actually loved it in the cinema. I think it was just outshone for me by, and we'll get on to like The Dark Knight, obviously, but I think I was just more blown away by The Dark Knight, so I'd almost like forgotten about it a wee bit or something. I don't know.
And one of the things about Batman Begins as well, obviously, it ends with that tease about the Joker. But a sequel at the time, a sequel directed by Nolan, was not guaranteed.
No.
The second and third ones were obviously massive blockbusters. The second was one of the most successful films ever made. But Batman Begins was a modest hit, but it wasn't like Spider-Man numbers. It did okay, but it was geeks like me that were reading about it every day on the internet. We had to wait a while before it was confirmed that they were going to do a sequel, and then it became very exciting, and then it became all about who was going to get cast as the Joker. But we'll come to that.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the second film in the trilogy, and this is The Dark Knight from 2008.
I knew the mob wouldn't go down without a fight, but this is different. They've crossed the line.
You crossed the line first, sir. You hammered them, and in their desperation, they turned to a man they didn't fully understand. Some men aren't looking for anything logical. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Starting tonight, people will die. I'm a man of my word.
So once again, directed by Christopher Nolan. This time, screenplay by Jonathan Nolan and Christopher Nolan. And adding to our cast of regulars, we've got Heath Ledger, Aaron Eckhart, and Maggie Gyllenhaal as replacing Katie Holmes, as we discussed, for the Rachel Dawes character. Rachel! So The Dark Knight follows the vigilante Batman, Lieutenant James Gordon, and District Attorney Harvey Dent, who form an alliance to dismantle the organised crime in Gotham City. But their efforts are derailed by the Joker, an anarchistic mastermind who seeks to test how far Batman will go to save the city from chaos. So, Vanessa, do you want to take the lead on The Dark Knight?
Okay. Was it 2008 it came out?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I saw this twice in the cinema. Adam, you're going to have to help me with this. Was the first time I saw it with you in the IMAX in the Science Centre in Glasgow?
It might have been the second. The first time I saw it was with my friends in that IMAX, and I think it was think it was a preview. I think it was maybe like the Wednesday, but of the week that it came out, and we had to book tickets. And then I think you'd seen it. Excuse me. I think you'd seen it in a normal cinema, and then I think I'd
Right.
said we should go and see it. You should come and see it again in the IMAX.
I couldn't quite
because,
remember. I knew I'd seen it twice, once normal and once IMAX, but I couldn't remember which is first. But in that case, I think me and Stevie must have seen it in our local cinema in the View, because I'm pretty sure we were very on off at that time. But I think we were on at that point, and
just for context.
I think at that point we were, and yeah, I was blown away by this movie. We'll get into discussing. I know it's not perfect, but the bits in this movie that are good are, to me, just like absolute cinema, like absolute. I mean, we'll get on to our favorite scenes and stuff, but like the intro, there's like 2 or 3 set pieces in this film that are absolutely fantastic. Arguably, there's too many set pieces in this movie, but as a whole, I think it's just. I remember when Heath Ledger got cast. And I remember speaking to Adam about this, and we were both like, Heath Ledger, because there was talk about, what was his name that was in Back to the Future? Was it
Crispin Glover.
There was talk about Crispin Glover.
Really?
And I was...
Yeah, he was one of the most popular names at the time. I think just because he looked the part, it wasn't really based on his acting. I think Crispin Glover, Willem Dafoe, Robin Williams, people wanted... Everybody in Hollywood was named as a potential Joker casting apart from Heath Ledger, I think.
I remember us just being like, Heath Ledger...
The general consensus online was, what the fuck? When Heath Ledger was cast. So why are you casting the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You as the most iconic villain of the 20th century? People were really not happy when he was cast. I remember it.
Well, I remember us having those conversations and being like, and then of course, did he die before it was released? Is that right? Yeah.
It was a good few months before it was released.
So it was still in like kind of post-production at that point.
Yeah, they'd obviously finished filming everything, but it was a while before it came out.
And obviously then by that point, we'd seen images of him as the Joker. I know that they'd released this would have been after he passed away, right enough, but they released the first 5-10 minutes as like a extended trailer. Was it before I Am Legend or something?
Yeah, I travelled all the way through to Glasgow to the IMAX to see I Am Legend, pretty much just so I could watch the first 5 minutes of The Dark Knight.
I remember that. So yeah, so the whole, by the time I saw it, was pretty hyped. Obviously it was kind of slightly bittersweet, but yeah, I every so often try and come up with my top 10 movies ever, and The Dark Knight goes in and out. It's definitely in my top 20. It's definitely in my top 20. I don't know if it's in my top 10, but I fucking love this movie. There you go.
Gail?
Yeah, it's a great favourite of mine as well. I've watched it many, many times, and I still enjoy it. There's 1 or 2 wee niggles I can make, but in the whole, I think it's really good.
Excellent. Adam?
Yeah, well, having been excited about Batman Begins and then having totally fallen in love with Batman Begins, I've never been more excited about a movie in my life than I was about The Dark Knight. That was a long 3 years between Batman Begins and Dark Knight, and I was reading everything. It had a really incredible viral marketing campaign, that film.
Yes, it
There were
did.
people running about going to bakeries to find cakes and then getting codes and having to put it online, and that would lead to a trailer or a picture of the Joker and stuff. So this incredibly elaborate marketing campaign. So I was constantly sort of engaged with it for the years before it came out. So when it finally did, I mean, I don't think I've ever been as excited about a film, and it didn't disappoint. It is a really phenomenal film. I think I was like wowed by it, but not quite as excited by it as I was when I left Batman Begins. Maybe because I typed it up to such a point that I probably couldn't actually quite live up to that. But it's a great film, and it's impressive because it didn't necessarily. It's almost unlikely that Warner Brothers gave him the sort of freedom they gave him with that film to make the film he wanted to make, especially since, as I said, Batman Begins was a hit, but not a gargantuan hit. It was a modest hit, and they gave him the freedom to make this grown up, intelligent comic book movie. And again, it was at a time when comic book movies weren't. It wasn't like every movie in the cinema was a comic book movie, which is what happened 5-10 years later. So it's one of the great films of that era. However, I think I have more affection for Batman Begins.
Okay. Well, I mean, as I sort of mentioned, I maybe didn't love Batman Begins as much as I do now. So I wasn't overly excited for The Dark Knight, but I think, there was obviously a lot of hype building up about it. There was obviously the death of Heath Ledger, which it sort of created an extra bit of interest in the film as well. And this casting, I think it's always fascinating when there is, a piece of casting that you maybe don't sort of see, and you want to see whether or not it's going to be the car crash that maybe you expect, or there's a bit of morbid curiosity to it. And it's and again, maybe that's a bit of morbid curiosity with the fact that he'd passed away before the film was released. But I went to see it at the cinema, and very much like Vanessa, it blew me away. It blew me away as just a piece of pure action cinema, and the storytelling I just thought was incredible. And I was excited for the Joker. The Joker is the the villain for Batman. He's the be all and end all when it comes to villains. Arguably the greatest villain of any superhero sort of film, story, character, etc. He's, if you asked somebody to name a superhero villain, they're probably going to say the Joker first off. But yeah, I think it does. It has problems. It has problems. I think we'll probably get into that as we sort of go through the cast. But I mean, we've talked a little bit there about sort of Heath Ledger, his performance as the Joker. So that's probably a good starting point because it is it is a huge part of this story, and I think it's had we not had Heath Ledger as the Joker, I don't think it would have quite entered that stratospheric place that it sort of lives in now, because it is totally there's the seeds of everything that you sort of know about the Joker, and anybody who's read various different incarnations of the Joker, there's still something very fresh and interesting with this version. And the fact that he drew inspiration from Tom Waits is just fantastic, because it's not something that you necessarily, Tom Waits isn't necessarily somebody that everybody's familiar with, and unless you've seen interviews with him. But it's so unnerving how accurate that sort of homage to Tom Waits is.
Who's Tom Waits?
What the fuck is wrong with you, Vanessa?
He was Renfield in Bram Stoker's Dracula. He's a musician.
You know exactly what reference to make for her to pick up what you.
Yeah,
he popped up in the Fisher King. Actually, remember we did the Fisher King.
King. He was the guy in the train station.
Yeah, Peter knows me well enough now to say it's Renfield and Bram
Stoker's Dracula.
Was he a musician?
Yes, he's an incredible.
He's kind
musician.
of first and foremost a musician.
You need to when you finish recording this podcast, Vanessa, go and listen to Closing Time. It is one of the best albums ever made.
Not the one by Semisonic.
No. Although that is a good song, but no, the album.
Tom Waits. I'm writing it down.
Okay. But yeah.
Sorry,
right. Segue. So Adam, Joker, Heath Ledger.
Yeah, so like I said, everyone was, well, not everyone. My reaction when I found out that he'd been cast the Joker was very much, wasn't what I was expecting. But I kind of reserved the kind of vitriol that a lot of people had, because I'd seen Monsters Ball, and I thought the performance that impressed me the most in Monsters Ball was Heath Ledger, because I didn't expect anything from him. I remember afterwards thinking, holy shit, that guy can really act. So when The Dark Knight was made, so when he was cast as the Joker in The Dark Knight, I did think, well, it's not at all obvious, but he is a better actor than people give him credit for. And Christopher Nolan knows what he's doing based on the first movie. He's not going to cast this arbitrarily or just because this is a kind of hot young actor. So I kind of took it on faith that he knew what he was doing. And then as the film was being made, gradually, I mean, you saw bits of it, and eventually we got trailers and stuff, but also the words from the set. Anytime, excuse me, anytime anyone was interviewed, Michael Caine or whatever was interviewed about them making this film, they all said the same thing, which is Heath Ledger is going to blow people away in this role. And he is the really remarkable thing about it. And as you say, you know, that's kind of impossible to imagine the film without him, because he is central to the plot. But he is what elevates it into being, you know, one of the great comic book movies, and he's one of the great villains, and he gives it his own take as well. He doesn't just, you know, there've been great Jokers before, and Mark Hamill in the animated series is phenomenal, but he did his own thing with it. It's an incredible performance.
I genuinely think I've watched this film quite a lot, that it's still, every single scene he is in, it's still I still change. It changes me physically. You sort of feel your sort of heckles going up. I think every sort of ounce of his performance is just so unnerving and pitched so perfectly that you don't know, even when he's in fucking drag as a nurse, you know, any other performance, you know, if you again go back to like Cesar Romero, or even if Jack Nicholson had done that, it would have just been laugh out loud funny. But you are just so unnerved in that moment because he's not, you know, he's not doing it for laughs. He's just doing it because that's the disguise, and you know, fuck it, I'll put on a nurse's dress and get into this hospital room. But it genuinely gives me shivers, I think, is the best way to sort of put it every time he's on screen.
Do you think possibly that is to the detriment of scenes in this movie that he's not in? Does that make sense? Like, do you think because the scenes that he's in are so good that the scenes that he's not in, you're like,
well,
when are we seeing the Joker again? When are we
when
are we seeing the Joker again? Like, when are we seeing the Joker again? Like, I find it difficult to criticize this movie because I love it so much. But the more I watch it, I do have criticisms of it, and I do wonder if him being so good maybe unfairly makes scenes that he's not in less good.
I think it makes it difficult to really nail the Two-Face storyline.
Yes,
finish that off.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me to move on to sort of Aaron Eckhart, as I think, you know, the two sides of the Harvey Dent Two-Face character, he's much better as Harvey Dent, as the White Knight, as he's sort of portrayed in the story. I think he's very good at that, Aaron Eckhart. I don't think that the transformation into Two-Face, although the build-up is very good, I think it's all very rushed. And I think it's obviously we've got to get to a certain point by the end of this film, but I don't think they land it with Two-Face. I don't think that stretch to him becoming Two-Face is believable enough.
No.
It is believable enough, but it's not. It could have been better, I think, is probably the better way of putting it.
I think the CGI stuff doesn't help either.
No,
the fact that,
they go way too far with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are just looking at it and thinking, well, he wouldn't be allowed. You know, there's no way that he would.
I think this is one of the things in general as well, because I think this is more of a problem in the third one. But because, like what I said earlier about the first one being slightly more there's still a slight fantasy element to it. The second one and the third one take themselves more seriously, and therefore when certain things happen like that, it's more of a strain. I think that's a bigger problem in the third movie, but it's like this is a serious crime film. It's not just a comic book movie anymore. So when it dips back into comic book conventions, then it doesn't necessarily land quite as well.
Yeah. I think it kind of sort of feels like they go to that degree with the Two-Face sort of makeup or CGI or whatever because they could, rather than because they should. It's
makeup would have been better. They could have had him just burning his face in some kind of chemical. His face didn't have to go on fire. It could have just been burnt with some kind of acid or something, and you know what I mean. It could have been done with practical effects, and I think it would have been better.
Well, that's it. It would have still been believable if there was a degree of it would still have to heal, but there's nothing there to heal, is there? There's literally nothing on his face. He's just. It's just it goes that little bit too far, and I think it's sort of to the detriment of. But it's rushed, isn't it? It's we have to get very quickly to the end point from then on. I don't
love the ending either. I must admit that end sequence. I'm a bit like I don't know if I buy this.
I mean, I think
my other issue with Two-Face, it's a personal thing. Is I remember reading A Long Goodbye, the Long Halloween even, and thinking that a perfect casting for Harvey Dent would have been Guy Pearce, and I think to this day Guy Pearce would have been a better choice. It's just it might just be because he looks like the Harvey Dent as portrayed in that comic, but because Nolan has worked with Guy Pearce on Memento.
Adam's a massive Neighbours fan, Peter. Huge Neighbours fan.
Well, that's the Neighbours connection. He wasn't necessarily a great actor when he was playing Mike Young in Neighbours, but by the time of Dark Knight, he was a great actor, and to this day, I think he would have been a better choice. It's nothing against Aaron Eckhart. In my fantasy casting, Guy Pearce would have played Harvey Dent.
What's your opinion on Two-Face, Gail?
Well, I think, as you were saying, I think it's so rushed. It's not developed properly.
No.
I don't know. If they had maybe intimated while he was being a good guy that he had the potential to be nasty, but I didn't think it worked particularly well.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a shame, really, that it didn't carry the Two-Face character over into Dark Knight Rises and make him a bit more integral to the plot of the third.
I think that might have been. I think it might have been partly, though. I suppose they didn't know this when they made it, because obviously, I think had Heath Ledger not passed away, I think the Joker would have played a part in the third movie.
Oh, he will definitely.
And then I think when he did, Chris Nolan. He was asked, I heard this in a podcast, he was asked, like, why didn't you put something in about the Joker? And he was like, because that was like a tragic thing that happened in real life. I wasn't going to mention it. And I wonder if he just thought, I'm not going to go back to anything in the second movie. I'm going to go back to the first movie, which is why you get all that Ra's al Ghul stuff, because maybe he just felt like it was disrespectful somehow going back to it. But I'm not sure.
Although Harvey Dent's still an important character in Rise. He's not in it. That the choices they make at the end of that film, then he sets up the drama in the third one.
I don't love the ending. I think probably the third act of this movie is the weakest. I think it starts getting overstuffed with stuff. So like the bit on the boat, I don't think it's necessary. I think you could remove that entire bit from the movie and it would still make perfect sense. I think you could have the Joker kidnapping the people in the hospital, doing the stuff where like they dress up as the nurses and they dress up as the clowns, and you could have had Batman coming and fighting in that high rise and then jump
in Trump Tower.
What?
That's Trump Tower.
Is it?
That was the then unfinished Trump Tower in I was in Chicago last year. It's now very much complete, and it's an eyesore.
It's an eyesore. Watch out.
But that's Trump Tower.
Yeah,
but I agree that the weakest set piece in the film is the stuff with the two boats. It's like it's interesting. So and this is a Christopher Nolan thing. It's like I get this on a cerebral level.
Yeah.
But it's on a kind of emotive
It's an
level,
interesting.
it's not doing it for me.
Premise. Like, I mean, as somebody who studied psychology a bit and used to like this kind of stuff, like this kind of social experiment where people are going to do
game theory, right?
It's really, and the performances are quite good. That big guy on the prison ship who's like, I'm going to take it and do what you should have done. I mean, it's quite effective. It's just unnecessary. It's unnecessary. Like, by that point,
I think also the film's been so great up to that point that it doesn't quite live up to, the set pieces that have come up before.
The best set pieces are earlier on in the movie, in my humble opinion. I mean, we'll get on to our favourite scenes, and I don't know which one I'm going to pick because there's so many, but to me, the best set pieces are all in the first 2/3 of the movie. We've not talked about Rachel, have we?
Well, we have kind of really.
I think we've
covered that. We'll not go.
We've covered that, right? Okay.
We've all put our flags in the ground for that one. I think
that we don't think she's that. And Adam was happy when she got killed, which is love.
Well, I think both, because I didn't love the character, but I also did. I remember before the film ever coming out, wondering if the Joker was going to kill Rachel, and kind of hoping that he would, not just because I didn't like the character, but just from a dramatic point of view.
It gave it more.
It would give him more reason to hate him.
Well, let's touch on favourite scenes then. Gail, you kick us off on this one.
There's 2 or 3 quite good ones. But I think I like the scene where Harvey Dent's supposedly getting taken to prison. The pursuit and the bit where the lorry does the somersault. I think that's fabulous.
Yeah, it's done practically as well.
I got a cheer.
That was done properly. That was done.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Yeah, that is it's a pretty epic chase scene, and I think that whole sort of bait and switch with the whole Gordon being, supposedly killed and everything is just fun. Because I didn't see that coming at all.
No.
And I think
I thought he'd been killed. I was really
I remember feeling like an idiot because I thought he'd been killed as well. And then when he came back, I realised that I had seen clips of the film that came later. There was already clips of the interview scene which comes later in the movie. So if I stopped to think, wait a minute, he can't be dead. But I completely believe that had happened. So yeah, that's an incredible action sequence. And what you were saying about the CGI and with Harvey Dent, I think part of the reason that scene with the truck works is whether people think about it or not, they can sense that that's not CGI. There's a physicality to it. You can feel that truck flip over because they did flip the truck over.
And I think it perfectly sort of portrays the sort of relentlessness of the Joker as well in that scene. He's not stopping. He's not messing about. He's got a bazooka, and he's got a truck, and he's fucking taking a helicopter.
What's it he says at one point? I love this job.
Yeah. Yeah. Adam, what about you?
That would be one of mine as well. I think in terms of action sequences, that central chase is phenomenal, and seeing that in IMAX was great. That was one of the sequences that was filmed with IMAX cameras, and it's all right. What are you doing? Vanessa's freaking out.
Because I turned around and Stevie's standing there like a big fucking creepy stalker.
That's just like the Joker. The other scene I love, there's several. Most of them would involve the Joker. But the first time, we have the bank robbery scene, which is great. But the first time we really see the Joker and his introduction, and the bit I'd heard before I saw it, something happens with a pencil. And I went into this knowing that there was a scene where something happens with a pencil, and that sequence is just brilliant. And again, when I first saw it, that scene, at the end of it, the audience cheered, and it was partly because Heath Ledger had died and people wanted to probably show their respect, but it was also just the sense that we'd seen the trailers, we'd seen little clips, but we didn't until you actually see that scene when he comes in and sits down with the gangsters.
How about a magic?
And get a full sense of what he was doing with the character, and to see an extended sequence of him, and it's like, he has fucking nailed this. So I still remember just how exciting it was to see that scene the first time, and it's still probably my favorite scene in the film. Yeah,
I'd plumb for that one, I think, but it's so many, isn't there, with the Joker? One of them is that fundraiser scene, and again, I suppose it's our second sort of big scene with the Joker, or one of the next big scenes with the Joker, and I just love that because it was genuine reaction from Michael Caine as well. He'd not seen Heath Ledger as the Joker until he came out of that lift, basically, and it's just the interplay between the characters, and we get this sort of sense from the scene previously with the Joker where he's telling the story about how he got his scars and things like that, and then he comes here and he tells a different story, which is, it plays into the, again, Batman lore that, we never really know who the Joker is, and he prefers his story to be multiple choice, which is, I think, a line from The Killing Joke, and it just that playfulness is just so sinister in that moment where he's got Rachel. He says, "Let her go." Poor choice of words, and just fucking launches her. It's great. What about you, Vanessa? What's your?
Sorry, I missed a little bit. Has anybody picked the intro?
Nope.
Okay, because I think you've covered all the other scenes I was going to mention. The intro's fantastic. I could watch it on its own over and over again. I think it's very heavily influenced by Heat, which I only saw for the first time last year, and I was like, fuck, I can totally see this now. But it's just so... I remember my friend LJ, she used to have a massive crush on Heath Ledger, and she was like, she loved him in 10 Things I Hate About You, and she was like, as soon as you see his legs, she was like, I knew that was him. Like, I could just recognise the way he stood and his legs, and it's just the first time you see him, and then you've got this music. That wasn't a very good impersonation, but you know what I mean? That like really, really sharp music that almost was quite rocky at one point. And then you've got the, you don't know who you're stealing from, and then it's just the whole fucking thing's great. And I can't praise it. I can't praise it enough. Them all killing each other. Funnily enough, he said that to me too. I think it's about 10 minutes long, maybe something like that, of just class. I don't know. I sometimes say to Stevie, class up the ass, and he's like, what does that mean? I was like, I have no idea. I just say it.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, this, I think Nolan's gone on record saying he was very influenced by Heat for the Dark Knight, and it's very sort of clear in that opening. That feels very Michael Mann-y, and the film on the whole does, I think, really. Like Adam said, I think you get this. Well, out of the three, I think this is the least comic booky. This feels like the most real of the three, and very sort of grounded, even though. We've got somebody with half a face who's just walking around like normal. The rest of the film just feels very grounded, and I think that helps to draw you into the believability of this Gotham scape, I suppose. And and that opening scene is got to be one of the best for sure. And I have got a little list here, some familiar faces, slightly drawing on the X-Files here. It's Tom Tiny Lister, who's been
We have an X-Files connection on this one.
We'll get to that. Tom Tiny Lister, who's the big man on the convict boat who throws the thing at them. Do what you should have did 5 minutes ago. David Dastmalchian in quite an early-ish role.
Yeah.
He's good in this. He's good in this.
Well, he plays weirdo characters really well, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's got a certain look about him, hasn't he?
And I can't remember the name of the character she plays, but sort of Eric Roberts's sort of squeeze in the club was from Hollyoaks.
Hollyoaks. She was in Hollyoaks. I knew that. The one that he says, "One makes me think I want to hear you talk."
Well, I mean, I think Eric Roberts is a fine sort of substitute for Tom Wilkinson in this as well.
He's good in this because he's the one as well that finally goes, "Oh fuck, we've gone too far. We've gone too far with this guy." Are you going to mention Lau, by the way? Because I've not got on him. I've not got time for it. But the whole Lau storyline is up. Lau, like they said this in a podcast I listened to. Lau is basically a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
And his entire storyline is a bit The whole Louth thing, when we're talking about things in this film that aren't great, I'm not going to lie, the Louth thing is probably sitting in that category for me.
That sequence in Hong Kong is pretty great. The way
Yeah.
But is it that they just wanted to film some in Hong Kong to appeal to
Yeah,
that
but I think
market?
that helps.
Maybe, but it does. The Louth stuff, it is kind of a MacGuffin, but it tells you stuff about the Joker, the way that all plays out. So I don't really have a problem with that stuff, I have to say.
Yeah. I know a squealer when I see one. That's great. Oh yes, there is an X-Files. I've got the X-Files connection. What
It's
a
with
nod.
Linda McGraw.
Yeah, she plays Barbara Gordon,
The wife.
Gordon's wife. Yes, Melinda McGraw, who was
Scully's sister Melissa.
Yeah.
Who gets shot in season 2.
Spoiler.
Spoiler alert. Oh, by the time you watch it, you'll have completely forgotten what I'm talking about. It still looks good because she's an attractive woman in the X-Files, and she's still an attractive woman in this.
Yeah, oh, gotcha.
It doesn't have much to do, though, actually. And talking about female characters doesn't have much to do with this movie, apart from cry.
And shout, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, there we go. All right, Dark Knight. So let's round this up with our final film. The Dark Knight Rises from 2012.
If you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, then you become something else entirely. A legend, Mr. Wayne. A legend.
We were in this together. And then you were gone. Now there's evil rising. The Batman has to come back.
What if it doesn't exist anymore?
He must. He must.
So again, once again, directed by Christopher Nolan, screenplay by Jonathan and Christopher Nolan. And adding to our cast this time around, we've got Anne Hathaway, Tom Hardy, Marion Cotillard, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Woo!
There's two people in there that I want to talk about a lot.
Okay, so set 8 years after the events of The Dark Knight, it follows a retired Bruce Wayne being forced to resume his role as Batman to save Gotham City from nuclear destruction at the hands of the terrorist Bane. So, Gail, do you want to kick us off on this one? What are your sort of opening thoughts on The Dark Knight Rises?
I like it. I like the narrative thrust of it. I think it hangs together quite well without a lot of stuff that's unnecessary. I like at the start the way that he's got to get back to what he was, and he's got to work hard, and then he ends up in that pit and has to start all over again, coming back to strength. So I find that quite interesting to watch. And I think that when Gotham gets taken over, I think it's quite exciting.
Yeah.
Any Russian Revolution.
French Revolution.
French Revolution.
Is it?
Well, I think one of the reasons Mum likes it so much is because it quotes. My mum was an English teacher, and it quotes Charles Dickens. And I think without the Tale of Two Cities quote at the end, Mum wouldn't like it so much.
But I also feel the bit where they have the scarecrow convening the court.
Yeah.
That's very much French Revolution, and that definitely is a nod to Napoleon.
Is it?
Well,
There's
see,
a-
this will
the
mean nothing.
silent version of Napoleon has a big scene in the court where people come up and they get sent to the guillotine, basically. And that scene, there's definitely quite a strong reference to it.
Well, this will mean absolutely nothing to you, Mum, but see, that scene makes me think of the League of Gentlemen. Because the whole death by banishment,
right,
I just always think of death by Mau Mau. Which is
Death
every
by
time I
Snoo
see that
Snoo.
scene, I think of League of Gentlemen.
Death by exile. Yeah. Adam?
Yeah, again, I was very excited about this movie as I was about the second one. It's and there's a lot that's great about it. I know some people aren't so fond of it. It is a very good film. I think it, like the second and third one, as I said, take themselves somewhat more seriously than the first one, and they get away with it more in the second one. I think the weight of its ideas, because there's elements of this with the fusion reactor and certain elements of this that are a bit more comic booky, occasionally it starts to buckle under the weight of its own ideas a little bit. It doesn't have a huge amount of Batman. I quite like the whole idea of the 8 years later. I think that was a good move, but it means that Batman's entire tenure within this world is fairly brief. And it's got things I like a lot. Again, female characters. I think Anne Hathaway is tremendous. I think she makes it fun. I think it's the least fun of the three movies. I think the first one's fun and a kind of rollicking adventure kind of way. The second one is fun largely because of Heath Ledger and the Joker. Oh, he might be homicidal, but it's such a fun performance. This one, I think it's epic and it's taking itself seriously, but it's a less entertaining film, I think, than the first two. But I think it has something of a lull in the middle. I think it starts well, and I think it ends well, and it kind of, and it doesn't drag. I watched it just last night and I enjoyed it all over again, but it slows down a bit in the middle, and it's touching on a lot of ideas and themes and things about, Occupy Wall Street and a lot of the sort of political world that was going on when this film was made, and with various degrees of success. Also, it slightly bothers me that they didn't film it in Chicago, so there's an inconsistency in the city. This one was filmed in New York, Philadelphia, and Glasgow. In places in that scene with I think the stock exchange was Glasgow. Incidentally, I could not have told you that Glenn Powell was in this movie.
Glenn Powell.
It's been a while since I've watched
my
it.
little cameo list.
Sorry. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Overall, I like it, but I like it least out of the three.
Yeah, I think it almost. I know what you're saying about that sort of middle part, because it almost sort of doubles down, because you've got Bruce Wayne coming back as Batman, and then you've got Bruce Wayne coming back as Batman again. It's sort of you've already gone through the journey of him coming back, and then we've got to do it again, kind of thing. He's got to sort of find his chi and unbreak his back and everything else. What about you, Vanessa? On the whole,
I would say this is probably my second favourite of the franchise, not the franchise, the trilogy. I think that I really enjoy the whole, he's turned into this kind of like eccentric Howard Hughes recluse type guy. I love Anne Hathaway as Selena Kyle. I think she's absolutely fantastic. I think, as we've already mentioned, she's probably the only really good female character in this trilogy. I think there's a lot of emotional weight in this one, not just the ending, but throughout. I adore Joseph Gordon-Levitt and basically everything that he's in, and he is always kind of had a big crush on him in this movie. I think he's just fantastic. Although I still think it would be better at the end, instead of saying Robin, if they called him Dick Grayson, but then maybe not enough people would have got that. Or maybe if he'd just been called Dick Grayson the entire way through the movie, I think would have been better. But I think that I thought it was Russian Revolution, obviously it's French Revolution, but I like all the revolution stuff. Bane's a really good baddie, and I think the end is fantastic. It probably is a wee bit bloated. I think it's 2 hours 45. I think it's the longest out of the three. It probably could have been cut down a little bit, but I enjoy it all. I quite like the nihilism in it. There's bits of it that are proper nihilistic where you're like, obviously, deep down, you know, Batman will prevail, but there's points where you're like, oh no, he's not gonna. Like Bane's, you know, this whole thing's Marianne. What's her name? Is it Marianne? It's so funny because the first time I watched this, I was like, yes, Batman's getting some action with some hot French bird. And see, now when I watch it, I hate her right from the start. And it's like, and I said to Stevie, I can't now not know that she's the baddie. So the first time I watched it, I was like, oh yes, I'm loving this. And now I'm like, bitch.
But there was people had kind of sussed before this came out that she might be Talia al Ghul. That was a kind of rumor.
Was she in the comics?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily think it was going to go that way, but I wasn't shocked by it. And the way, like when I saw the first one, I was actually surprised. I felt a bit of an idiot for being surprised that when Liam Neeson turns out to be Ra's al Ghul, because it's like, well, yeah, he looks like Ra's al Ghul. And he looks a lot more like Ra's al Ghul than Ken Watanabe does, so it makes perfect sense. I think Marianne Cotillard's character is a bit of a problem in this film. I don't love her character up to the end, and then when we do get the reveal, it kind of undermines Bane as a character. I think so. When you rewatch it, Bane is a less intimidating character when you know that he's under her.
He's a puppet, basically.
Yeah, and the way that the reveal's done with her and stuff. I don't love Marianne Cotillard in this film, I have to say. I do love Anne Hathaway. And she has this real... It's like she's playing about 5 or 6 different classic golden era of Hollywood actresses. The first... When she does that Little Miss Innocent act in front of Bruce Wayne when they first meet, I don't know if it's intentional, but to me she's doing Judy Garland. Like you watch her and you think, you could play Judy Garland, actually. She's...
Is that the bit then she goes, oops?
Yeah, just before she says "oops," but when she does that little, you know, she's Judy Garland. I don't know if that's intentional, but she makes the whole film more entertaining. She brings some fun to it, and she brings that Batman. I think
that Stevie was on it because Stevie's sitting going, you know, I never really fancied Anne Hathaway until I saw her in Leathers in that
fight. She does. Yeah, to be fair,
she does. Yes, indeed. She does.
It's not just eye candy. Like
but I think.
Oh no, that's the thing. She's absolutely not just eye candy.
I think. Well, yeah, because I think I don't. You know, the allure. The allure of the Selina Kyle Catwoman character doesn't come from her leathers or anything. It comes from her personality, I think, and just her behaviours are just so. Ooh, you can see where Brett Cullen's senator is falling madly in love and staying in love with Selina Kyle. I mean, Bane.
Call me.
Bane. I think Bane. Although I think it's a very interesting portrayal. I think out of all of the villains in this trilogy, Bane is the biggest stretch from the comic books.
Yeah,
it's the biggest sort of deviation from what we get in the comics. I mean, you could argue maybe the Joker is a bit of a, is maybe not like anything that we've seen in the comics. But I think the tone's always has been there with some of the darker variations of the Joker in the comics and the graphic novels, whereas Bane is, he's one of the, in the main canon of Batman, he's one of the newer supervillains as well. But it just seems, I don't know, I think it doesn't quite sort of vibe with what I know as Bane from the comic books enough.
What's Bane like in the comic book?
Well, I mean, he's Mexican for starters, and he's a former sort of professional wrestler, and he has
right,
and the big thing about Bane is that he has the the venom, which is the stuff that goes into his mask and powers him and everything else. Whereas this is just sort of it's painkillers, really, you know. But it's a memorable performance, you know. I think
it's a very good performance. It's more memorable than the version we get in Batman and Robin.
Oh,
I was going to say
yeah.
the Batman and Robin one is pretty shit, but
and it's interesting. I mean, Chris Nolan kind of did the same thing when he put him in Dunkirk. He obviously thinks Tom Hardy can do a lot of acting with his eyes, and he can. But when both those films, he does the entire film like this. And he is. I think it is a good performance. But like I say, I think when you rewatch it, it's somewhat undermined when you know where this is all going.
Well, that's it. They don't get, you know. I mean, you could argue that maybe most of the villains in this trilogy don't get big sort of comeuppances or big final scenes. I mean, he effectively just gets blasted to the back of the room, doesn't he? You know, he's very. It seems very throwaway at that point that he just gets bested by somebody coming through the door and stuff, and it's not Batman doing it. But
his coat, though, that coat. See that, like, suede line? Oh my god, it's amazing. Every time, like, when I was watching it with Stevie the other night, I was like, I would sell a kidney for that coat. It's iconic. It's such a good coat.
But I may be misremembering this, but didn't they have to tweak his voice after the first
I think it did. I think it might have even been. So again, I went to the IMAX in Glasgow to see the opening sequence of this movie. The scene with the plane. I remember seeing it with my friend Jed, and we both laughed at the fact that we're both fans of Queer as Folk.
Oh, of course.
The fact that one of the first people you see in the film is Hayden Gillan. Like, yes, Stuart. But that sequence, I think they previewed that sequence, and I think everybody said the same thing, which is, what the fuck was he saying? And I think they did go back and make it a bit more clear. There's still lines. There was a line I put the subtitles on last night. I can't remember. It's the bit when he's grabbed the guy by the throat and he says something about you've lived on borrowed time or something like that. But it's like
time you've been living on.
Anything is like there are a couple of lines that you just completely miss, and it's a problem with Christopher Nolan. That sequence, there's a sequence in Tenet when they're out in those boats, those catamaran things or whatever they're called. It's like I didn't get a word of it. And I think part of the issue is, this is just conjecture, but when you're directing a film or you've written the screenplay, you know all the dialogue. So if someone says something not very clearly and you know what it is, your ear will pick it up. But if you don't know what that line is and it's muffled, it could be anything. So yeah, that was an issue with this film, and it was cleaned up a bit, I think.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, it almost. I mean, it's a very good sort of impression of. I can't remember the name of the. It's a bare-knuckled sort of gypsy fighter, isn't it? That he sort of took the inspiration for the voice from. And I forget his name, but it does become a little bit farcical in places. There's certain points where it just sounds really bizarre.
I can't do it. But see the bit where he says, like, I was born in the dark, you merely adopted it.
I was born in the dark.
It's quite camp at times.
It's the way he says crashing this plane at the start. He's like, is that part of your plan? He's like, was it? No, I can't remember what the line is. And he says, crashing this plane. And you're like, oh my God.
You sound a bit like the guy from the Goonies there, Peter. Hey, you guys.
Hey, you guys. But then even, to be fair, even Gary Oldman struggles, I think, in this film. He seems a little bit over the top. I don't know whether there's quite a famous interview where he talks about Christopher Nolan's direction. He said, the only piece of direction he ever gave me was that they'd done a scene, and then he pulled him to one side and said, there's more at stake. And I believe that is the scene where he has this sort of meltdown about the fact that he's been called out for hiding the fact that Harvey Dent had gone bad, basically. And he says, when you're in your darkest or something like that, I hope you'll find a friend like I did. And it's like so bizarre. It's like, oh my God. I don't know if he was just struggling to get the right cadence with the accent. But I just think, oh my God. And the less said about Marion Cotillard's death scene, the better.
But she's like,
got to be the worst. How a director of Christopher Nolan standard could think, oh yeah, we got that on that scene is just beyond me. But I think it's a fine sort of end to the trilogy. I don't think they could have really done anything else. I think on the whole, I think it's a great sort of story. I think it maybe borrows a bit too much because it sort of borrows from Nightfall. I think the fact that it heavily borrows from The Dark Knight Returns, which is a fantastic piece of literature, I suppose. One of my favourite Batman stories. And I think it's a bit of a shame that they didn't maybe go all out and just do more of an adaptation of Dark Knight Returns, because it's just a great story.
But Joseph Gordon-Levitt's fantastic.
Yeah, but I think he's a bit throwaway for me.
Do you?
Yeah, I get it's nice, the whole sort of, Robin anybody thing can be Batman, but it's like Adam said, you can't see him. The suggestion is that he's going to be Batman, and it's like he's just going to. I know, but
when you see him fighting earlier on, when he takes on those guys, like, he can proper take care of himself.
Even the pastor sort of takes him down a peg or two. He's like, well, what the fuck are you doing? What we're going to do? It's a nuclear bomb. And he's like, get him back on the bus. Come on, guys.
The ending. Can we talk about the ending before we go into our favourite scenes, which is the same thing for me?
Okay.
I think Mum will agree.
I just feel, and this is maybe one of the reasons that I prefer this to Batman Begins, is because from the minute that Batman tells Commissioner Gordon that he is Bruce Wayne, he doesn't say that, but he says enough to say that, and then you flip back to that scene in the first movie, then that's it. My lashes are doing the backstroke from then on till the end of that fucking movie. That, and then the music when he goes out and you see the kind of like atom bomb, to like the funeral scene with the Tale of Two Cities quotes, to the bit with Michael Caine and Florence, to the bit, maybe that's after, to the bit with Lucius Fox realising that he managed to get out. The entire, that whole sequence at the end, I cannot not cry from that entire sequence.
And the subject of Lucius Fox, can we talk about the massive signposting with the autopilot thing?
Yeah.
That bothers me.
It's a bit like Godzilla -1. Everybody's seen Godzilla -1 here, haven't they?
Yeah.
And this is a spoiler for it, so sorry, listeners. But anyway, they do the same thing in that there's a massive signpost about it, and then it's used later on. But you know what?
It doesn't bother me massively, or it certainly didn't bother me the first time I watched it. So does
it bother you now a wee bit?
I think it's one of those things that it's slightly to complain about it when you know what's coming. It's easy. It didn't bother me so much the first time, but it bothers me a little bit. And that sequence at the end is phenomenal. But do you not think it could have lost the reverse shot in the cafe with Michael Caine? We didn't need to see Bruce Wayne and Selina in that shot. We could have just seen Michael Caine and made up our own minds, and it could have been just a little bit more ambiguous. You know what I think?
Maybe.
Well, I don't. But again, maybe I've just read too much of the comics and stuff. I don't like the happy ending for Bruce Wayne.
Would you have preferred him dying?
No, I just think he's destined to just be Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
No.
I think
that's the thing. I think that's always it. And I think another big sort of downer in this film is the use of Alfred, because I don't buy that. I don't buy that he would just leave him like that.
It's strange. Their relationship feels quite different in this film from The Dark Knight, and Alfred's attitude to everything seems to have changed. And it's not really particularly consistent.
And that nobody picked up that Batman's come back just at the same time that Bruce Wayne's come back as well, which they managed to cover it in the first two films, I think, really well. In fact, you're never sort of doubting that, the Gotham wouldn't know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And I think in this one, it's like, well, somebody must put that together. I mean, obviously, fucking John Blake does. He sort of knows it, which feels a little bit like a MacGuffin. But
I've heard some people complain that it's a bit Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, because it has about 6 endings.
I never saw
No, I don't. That doesn't. I do like the ending overall.
I like
and I
it.
don't think
I don't agree with that. I
Return
was
of the
just throwing
King's
it out.
different.
Yeah.
The Return of the King ends and then fades to black and then ends again and then fades to black. Whereas this does the thing that Chris Nolan does very well, which is intercutting a whole bunch of stuff happening at the same time. He does that. It's like one of the best sequences in The Dark Knight. We talked about it, the bit with the penthouse, but part of that is because of the sequence leading up to it, with the different people getting assassinated, and the way that it cuts between all these things happening. That Nolan does that stuff brilliantly. So just in terms of editing and stuff, I think he manages to make the end work. I kind of, on a philosophical point, I agree with Peter that ultimately giving Batman a happy ending like that's not really Batman. But from a technical point of view, I think it's better than the ends of Return of the King.
I think that it feels very much like Christopher Nolan saying, "I'm not doing any more Batman films."
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm happy with that. I think he managed to make a very good trilogy and to keep the quality up over 3 films. There's not many examples of that. So for all that, I think The Dark Knight Rises is a flawed film. You've got to take your hat off to him.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned Glenn Powell as a little side note actor in this film, but Juno Temple as well.
Yes, I got Juno Temple.
You got Juno Temple on your bingo
card. That was
Anne
Hathaway's mate.
Yeah,
she was in Fargo.
She was tremendous in Fargo. Yeah,
she's in Fargo, Ted Lasso as well. Really good. Have you never seen Ted Lasso? It's fucking great.
No, I've heard it's really good. I really should watch it. I think Stevie's watched it. Is that the one about the football?
Yes.
Yeah. Stevie's watched it. Is it the boy from Horrible Bosses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah. And We Are the Millers, that guy.
Yeah.
I like him. I should probably watch it. Stevie says it's really good.
I'd just like to point something out. I don't think either of you have sworn tonight.
I think I might have let a couple of minor F's slip, but
we haven't said.
I'm not going to drop a C-bomb in front of my mother.
We haven't said cunt.
Really?
I'm saying it now, but we haven't said it. I don't think Mum's sworn.
No.
Well, we do our favourite scenes from The Dark Knight.
Oh yes, we better do those. Yes, yeah. So
you've just done it for me.
So I mean, the ending's pretty sweet, I think, in terms of its shot. I mean, for me, I think it's when everything blows up. That whole, despite its probably unbelievability, but the moment in the stadium where everything is great. I just think that's such a well done scene where everything just goes to shit, and old Richard Alpert gets blown up in his box. Bless him.
Nobody will understand if you're Richard Alpert, apart from me. They've not seen Lost, i.e., one of the great movies ever made.
Adam, what about you? What's the scene?
Yeah, I struggle with this more than the others. I don't feel like there's one moment that necessarily sticks out, but the ending is terrific. I like the sequence, and it's a small, kind of quieter moment, but I like the scene when Bruce Wayne visits the hospital to go and see Gary Oldman again.
And he holds his hand!
And he holds his hand, and he puts on the balaclava, and it's a very much a callback to Batman Begins and how their relationship started. And there's something very sweet about it. And also the scene in the bar with Anne Hathaway.
That's fantastic.
Because she plays it so brilliantly, and it's a funny scene, and that plays out really well. So yeah, there's a few moments like that I really like.
I mean, the Batman coming back, that's pretty good. I mean, the line is sort of directly lifted from Dark Knight Returns, where the two policemen in the car, and he's like, "Well, what is that?" It's, "Oh boy, you're in for a show tonight."
Yeah, that's pretty great. And this, when he does, I mean, for all the, I think there's a lull in the middle when he does make that jump and escape the prison in a more ancient part of the world, wherever the hell that's supposed to be. and then somehow manages to make it back to Gotham City despite the fact it's completely cut off.
They're shouting rise,
but
aren't they?
That moment when he makes the jump works exactly as it's supposed to. So yeah, it certainly has its moments, but it's my least favorite.
When he took the rope off, I said to your dad, "Use the force."
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, and I mean, we get some familiar faces in here as well. We get Tom Conti as
Tom Conti.
Yes,
Tom Conti. Not the usual smooth Tom Conti we're used to. We get we've mentioned Juno Temple, haven't we? And Brett Cullen, who plays the senator. He was in Lost as well.
Yeah. He was shagging Juliet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That won't make sense to Adam Whyte.
Well, he's been in other stuff as well. But
Can I mention something about favourite scenes that we just haven't mentioned? Because before you get on, because you're hopefully going to mention this guy as a cameo bit part person.
Go on.
Matthew Modine.
Yeah.
Matthew Modine's good to know.
So I love the scene where he becomes so obsessed with catching Batman that he fucking forgets about this thing on Wall Street. And then I love the bit where the bat rises and because they think they've got him in a corner and he gets out. But I also love the bit where he's made out to be a bit of a coward and it's like, oh, he's not going to fight, and his wife answers the door, but then later on you see him and then the bat comes over and they all get emboldened and they're all like, but then it's really sad because you see So I think all the stuff with Modine, not very much, it's not a very big part of the movie, but like good scenes. I would say the scenes with Modine are all really, really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's quite all right. But that wraps us up, really. I mean, I suppose I'm pretty sure which way everybody's going to go on this.
So you'll get the deciding vote.
Will I?
Well,
so Adam, I think Batman Begins for you.
Batman Begins is my favorite, and again, it's partly an affection thing. But yeah, I adore Batman Begins. Might be my favorite Christopher Nolan film, actually.
All right. Okay. Oh wow. And Vanessa, I'm guessing Dark Knight.
Yes.
Gail, what about you?
Well, it's very close between the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises, but I'll maybe go for the Dark Knight Rises because of the stronger narrative.
So you have got the deciding. You have got the deciding.
I have got the deciding vote. Then, well, it's very simple. It's the Dark Knight. Dark Knight, very much like you, Vanessa. I think is in my top 20. I've watched it endless amount. It's the one I've watched the most. It's the one I can just put on outside of the other two. But I think, for me, it's Dark Knight, then Batman Begins, then Dark Knight Rises.
I'm Dark Knight Rises, Batman Begins, and I think Mum will be the same as me. Adam, what are you chronologically? Yeah.
Yeah, I think as is the way with most trilogies. First, second, third. Die Hard, Indiana Jones.
Die Hard, no.
Toy Story.
We can save this for another episode, but Die Hard 2 is definitely better than Die Hard 3. Man.
Toy Story.
No, Die Hard with a Vengeance is better than Die Hard.
film.
It's better than Die Hard.
Wrong. What?
Right,
better than the first one? Did you say?
Better than the first one, yeah.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
You're fucking mental. I'm gonna have to use the C word, Mom.
Very nice. Well, yeah, that wraps us up then. Quite an epic chat about 3 epic films, really. Listen, thank you so much, guys, for joining me on this. Thanks for coming back, Adam.
And thanks for having me.
What an absolute pleasure to have you on as well, Gail. Thank you so much.
Great pleasure for me too.
Yeah. And who knows, we may have you back at some point as well.
Great.
But yeah, I mean, guys, do you want to sort of talk or tease about something that you guys are maybe doing in the near future?
Yeah, Adam and I have already recorded a few episodes of That's What I Call the 90s.
Is that what it's called?
I think we've
had some
disagreement about what it's called, right?
What it's actually called. If it's That's What I Call 90s, that's what I call the 90s. But
I think it's That's What I Call the 90s.
Yeah, we're doing a podcast about 90s movies. We've recorded a couple. We're going to take a year, go take one from 1990, one from 91, and work through the decades, and then go back and start again. So we've recorded a couple of those, doing another one this week. We've got an introductory podcast, but hopefully
get them out maybe February time.
In the next few weeks, one would hope. That we're starting with 1990, and the first film we're covering is Goodfellas. So yeah, keep an eye out for that.
And Peter will be appearing probably more than once.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And Mum may be appearing
Possibly
on that at some point as well. So
does that mean I could take Die Hard with a Vengeance from 95?
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody else will want to take it. So that's probably. And also,
I think we'll get through a lot in 95 films before we get down to Die Hard with a Vengeance.
And also, Peter, we're on a bit of a hiatus at the moment from the so-called X-Files podcast, but by the time this goes out, hopefully we'll be
close to releasing season 4.
Yeah, season 4 should be out February 2026 at some point. We've got our first couple of episodes scheduled, so back in the world of Mulder and Scully.
Okay, so thanks again, guys. Just leaves me to say goodbye. For Adam, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
For Gail, say goodbye.
Bye.
And for Vanessa to say,
I'm not wearing hockey pants.
Should have tipped better.